Outer Orange.
Hey guys, and welcome to a Pacifica premium deck profile. This has been a very fun profile to create, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So let's go on in and start it. So hey guys, I'm back as my blonde version, my Pacifica blonde version, because today we're going to be going into an in-depth profile discussing Pacifica and everything that Pacifica does. I'm going to do my best to explain everything out and pretty much all the combos and things you can do. I just started experimenting with this deck about a month ago, and that's part of the reason why I did my big card haul, because I really wanted to get some Pacifica cards in. I discovered this list. Actually, I don't think I discovered it. Actually, I think Yellow showed it to me a while back through one of the discords, and I was like, holy crap, this would be really cool to recreate, because the biggest question that everybody had about the list was like, what's the win con? And today we're going to discuss multiple win cons on top of the deck profile that I have so far, and all the things that makes it a really fun deck. I faced some people online with this deck. I faced Yellow with this deck. It's been really fun to experiment with it. I can't wait to share with you guys all the things that you can do with a premium Pacifica list now. Alright, so we are back. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the grade 3s, go with the grade 2s, the grade 1s, and then we'll switch on over to the strides. So your main focus is obviously Pacifica. This is top idol Pacifica in the standard version. It actually took me a while to even realize that like her skill is any Pacifica, and I think that's like one of the key parts of this deck. But let me go ahead and talk about what Pacifica's engine is, and then we'll just kind of go into it from there, because there's a lot of ways you can approach this deck just overall. But pretty much her skill is once per turn, Soul Blast and activate all the effects below according to the number of your rear guards with Pacifica in their card names. I want to make that clear. It states Pacifica, not top idol Pacifica, just strictly Pacifica, which took me a while to wrap my mind around that, because I actually didn't know. I thought it was like only top idol Pacificas, but it's any Pacifica. Anyway, so if you have 1 or more, you get 10k and an extra drive for the van. 2 or more, you get 2 imaginary gift force. 3 or more, until the end of turn, when your opponent would call from his or her hand to guard circle, he or she must call 3 or more at the same time. So pretty much any battle that you go into, if you have 3 or more Pacificas on the board that as rear guards, your opponent has to guard 3 cards from hand. So unless they have some kind of weird way to go around it, they have to guard or they have to take it. And this is kind of like one of the win conditions that we'll be discussing today. But that's pretty much what you do. So your goal in the deck is get your Pacificas and do stuff. That's pretty much the main key. Rather it's through this card, there are other cards like stride cards that also kind of go into all this. So let's go ahead and talk about, so we have like our top idol Pacifica right here. I'll put it right here. I'm gonna have all the Pacificas out just so you guys can see. Next we have our planet idol Pacifica. This is the swimsuit edition. And we're not using her skill. We're just going to pretend her skill doesn't exist. It's pretty much a limit break 4 skill, but once you stride on top or do anything, the skill goes away. So we're not focusing on her skill at all. She's just here as a Pacifica. She has a different name of Pacifica from her. So that's 3 of her. Next we have Eternal Idol Pacifica, also same condition. You don't care about the skill or what she does, you mostly care about what her purpose is in terms of being a Pacifica unit, as her name is different, her name is different, and her name is different. So I have 4 copies of her and 3 copies of the other girls. This is your main ride target. These are your side units to kind of get your strides going. So we're gonna just quickly discuss like, we're gonna discuss like later on like why it's important to have all three present like this. We will be discussing this here shortly, because in the strides is very important, but also in the win con for the Pacifica, the V standard Pacifica, it's important too. So we're gonna go ahead and discuss that here. But before all that, we're gonna go into our grade 2s and then our grade 1s and all that fun stuff. Pretty much your main searching engines. So I have 2 copies of Lieselot. Lieselot is just nice for board replenishment if you need it. I wouldn't say she's a staple. She's kind of like actually the opposite of a staple in this deck. You don't necessarily need her. I just keep her in because I think she's just an overall good unit to have. You don't need her though. She's not mandatory, but just a good way to just add soul if you need it, and add extra ways to have rear guards. This is good early pressure, I would say. Later on it falls off. Next we have 2 aquas. I actually just recently put this in. I took out this. Oh, whoa. Took out this. I noticed that I almost never use this card. as there's so many other ways to get Pacificas out. This card isn't really necessary. If a Pacifica, because it's specifically top out Pacifica. If a top out Pacifica falls into your damage, because that's what you can do with this, you can take it from damage or from drop and put it back to your hand. The cool and all, but I mean, it's not necessary. There are other ways to do things, and you can call stuff out that I don't think this card is important anymore, at least in premium. In standard, I still think you need this. I don't think you need it in premium. You have too many other Pacificas that can do things. It's not really mandatory. But anyway, so I put in top out Aqua instead, because top out Aqua, when placed, returns cards back to your hand, so you can reuse searching skills. You can then, on top of that, draw a card and discard a card, which means you can filter through to get closer to your Pacificas or closer to maybe some shield value that you may need or any other staples they may need in the deck. So I actually like this better, as it gets, and she gets 5k if she's with another unit like behind her. She gets the extra 5k. So I think overall this card just does more than that card. That card is not a power level at all. That does nothing but gives you Pacificas back, but your entire deck gets you Pacificas, so I don't think she's needed anymore. So we run two top idol Aquas. Next I run Attractive Glow Sandy. I run two of her. She is your way of not having to waste your guard, because in this deck we run quite a bit of grade 3s. On top of the fact that a lot of your engine is to drop cards to pick Pacificas up, so your hand is pretty fake. You will have a hand with like 6 Pacificas and like 3 or 4 actual guarding units. So using this instead of your heal trigger is just better, because that's literally your skill. Like when you would G guard, you can just use her instead. She's from hand type of skill. I just think this is overall a better option, and it just saves you that 20k shield. It gives you the extra 15k shield pretty much because she's a 5k. I just think it's overall just a better thing to use. So we run to her. Friend of the Sun, Marika. Marika is a very long skill. Let me just go ahead and kind of explain it to you guys. So pretty much her skill is when she's returned from hand. If you have a Vanguard Pacifica in its name, search your deck for up to 1 card Pacifica, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. Then you may choose up to 3 different cards with Pacifica in their name, primarily Eternal, Planet, and Top Idol, and reveal them. If you revealed all 3, you can countercharge, soul charge, choose one of your other units and get a 5k. So this is a finisher thing you can do with your stride, and I will kind of discuss this a little bit later. This doesn't always pop off, but when it does, it is nice to actually have the extra 5k. But we'll go on into this card in a little bit here. This card is really good with a stride, but this is another win con that you can have with this, but it's not like mandatory. You can only use this card if it bounces back, and there's actually one Pacifica card that does bounce back, so you can use this. But we'll talk about her in a little bit. Next I have, and the final card is Expect Rhythm Vieira. I run 3, kind of debating if I want to put it back to 4 now that I discovered more stuff about the deck the other day. I keep discovering new things every time I play this deck, I swear. But anyway, so this is one of your, I guess, like good engine things to have. She's a really good card, but because there's multiple win cons, you don't necessarily need this card primarily, so that's why I put it down to 3. But now that I discovered another win con, now I'm kind of debating if I'll put it 4. Because like I said, I'm still testing this deck out. I've been testing it for literally like a month now, and I'm still not done. There's just so many things you can do. It's premium. Anyway, so her skill is once per turn, if your Vanguard is top out Pacifica or Expect Rhythm Vieira, meaning herself. That's probably part of the reason why I don't run all 4 copies, because sometimes your Vanguard won't be top out Pacifica and this doesn't go off. Anyway, it says counterblast 1, put another rear guard to the bottom of your deck, call up to 1 normal unit from your drop zone to rear guard, choose all of your rear guards until the end of your opponent's next turn. They get boost and cannot be chosen by your opponent's card abilities. So this card's really nice if you like have your blowout top idol Pacifica turn, and I'll explain that a little bit later, like how that works. But pretty much when you have all your Pacificas on the board, you don't want them touched. This is a good card to use to just keep them untouched. What's really nice about this is that it actually takes a Pacifica from rear guard to the board, because it says take a rear guard from drop zone to board. You're probably going to take a Pacifica. You can actually call over a Pacifica and then call that same Pacifica back out. There's some little things you can do to kind of get your board set up if you don't want to use your hand or other conditions. There are ways to meet the conditions. This is mainly your top idol Pacifica turn though, so you can't use this on your strides. I've thought about it and I was like, oh, like I can't use this. So think about real hard when you want to use this. We'll talk about this card a little bit more in a little bit. Now let's go into our actual searchers, because we need them. This is probably the best card in terms of searching. I love this card. Her name is Rainbow Shard Urani. Her skill is when placed to look at top 7 for any Pacifica. any Pacifica. This is where the meat and bones are. Any Pacifica, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck, and you get 3k. So on top of the fact that she searches for Pacificas, you also get 3k on top of that. This card is like the best card to use with Aqua or any form of bouncing and bringing cards back. This is the card you want to do it with. This card will keep finding you Pacificas, as it's literally any, so you can just keep putting this down and keep searching for any Pacificas that you want. This meets your Pacific condition like really fast. So this is added in Twinkle Melody, by the way, so this is a new edition. This is what mainly propelled the deck. I feel like in Crystal Melody, when we had our old searchers, it just wasn't as impactful. This is definitely impactful, as literally there's no cost for this. It's just you got to place it down. That's the cost. Just search and get 3k. Not bad. This becomes an 11k beat stick. I love this card. I think this is a good card. Going into other searchers, we have the lesser of the good cards. I didn't like this card to start out with, and I still don't like this card, but we have to run it. This is Topping Mascot Serio. So her skill is when placed, you counterblast 1. Look at top 7 for either Top IO Pacifica or Ursula, I believe. Yeah, or Refined Poison Ursula. And each among them, put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. If you and your opponent are both on grade 1, you can Soul Blast instead. So if you go second, you can Soul Blast instead of counterblasting, meaning you can just do it early. I don't like this card because if this is your first ride target, this card's dead. Later on, the CB could be kind of costly. I like it because it searches. Like, don't get me wrong. The searching and stuff, especially in Standard, this card I think does a lot better because you can actually have the space to run Ursula. In this deck, you don't need to run Ursula. And Ursula, by the way, is just a grade 3 that says when placed, counterblast 1, search for a Pacifica. That's all she does. And I just think that both those cards, 2 CB, to like search out Pacificas, can be kind of painful unless you're going for a killing blow and all that stuff. They're good cards, by the way. They're good cards. I'm just not like a huge fan. I think it's a very boring engine. Like, it's just like CB search, CB search, CB search. Like, I kind of like having more of the originality like here. So this is one place, but you can search for any Pacifica. These are specifically for Top Idol, and that's why I'm not like as crazy about it. But anyway, you need her though. You need 4 copies of her. She's important. Next I run, and now I'm going into my weirder cards. Next I run Superb New Student Shizuku. So you have the option of running Sedna instead. If you want to run the grade 3 searcher Sedna, by all means, I think her name is Mermaid Idol Sedna. I think that's her full name. By all means, go for it. The reason why I run her is because there's a stride that works with Harmony, and she also works with Harmony. So you can manipulate some early multiple attacking if you don't have the generation break that you need. And that's why I have this card. But her skill is very simple. Vanguard, Rearguard, Harmony. Other skill, top 5 with a GB1. Top 5, look for a grade 3. So she's a grade 3 searcher. But there's also Sedna. Sedna does the same thing, except she also has 5k. So she's technically better in a sense of like power and stuff. But I like this more because you can synergize this with your strides. So I run this. I actually am tempted to put it to 3 and maybe take like a Weasel out or something. I'm still debating. I just really like the idea of this card. I like having the Harmony effect going into my strides. I'm still debating like exactly where I feel with it, but I like it because I've had times where I've had the Harmony effect where I've had both of these out and it worked. But drawing into these is, not always going to happen. It's not always going to have this win con. Or not win con. You're not always going to have this type of synergy. Next, going into, this is Magical Yell Nina. Her skill is for countercharging. So she literally says, when placed on rear guard, you may pay the cost, which is Soul Blast 2 to countercharge twice. Which is really nice. We counterblast quite a bit in this deck. You'll see when we get to our strides especially. There's a lot of counterblasting going on. This saves you from having to not have counterblast pretty much. Just another way. We have other counterchargers as well on top of this. I recently put a card in that really made me want to put this card in. I think this is a really nice card. It's literally Soul Blast 2. And honestly, we don't really Soul Blast too much in this deck except for Top Idol Pacifica. But you can also ride on top. And you're not going to use Top Idol Pacifica's skill that much. You're not going to keep using it every turn because you can choose to stride as well. And all the strides, if I'm not mistaken, don't require Soul Blast. So the only time you would Soul Blast is Pacifica or this card, or with the Serio girl, like if you do it early. But other than that, your Soul Blasting is not that big. So this is actually really big. This is a good card to have for the countercharger. Plus, it's two countercharges. Like that's literally an on stride. An on just 2 counterblast. This helps you get your on stride. Ooh, foreshadowing for the future. Okay, going to our last card. Tempeспhere. So Tempeспhere is actually really solid in this deck. It's not mandatory, but it's good to have. So there's a lot of cards that are locked behind Generation Break 2 and 3, and this definitely helps you fix those issues. Of course, you're not going to always see it, you're not going to always get to it, but when you do, you have the option to go into another win con. You kind of have an option to choose like which direction you want to take your Pacificas, pretty much. So this is primarily what that is for. Just to talk about it a little bit, the skill is Counterblast 1, turn a G-Zone unit face up, and then look at top 7 for vanilla cards, specifically your heals, your crits, anything that doesn't have any skills on it, and you can put them into your hand. You can put two into your hand. So that's what she does. Well, that's what this does. We also have Cyclone in here. Cyclone makes those units have extra power. Extra power is nice in this deck because actually this deck kind of doesn't have that power. It has a lot of weird conditions, but the power actually is not that high. That's why I have that grade 2 Pacifica thing, the one that you return stuff back, the Marika. Reason being is because she gives power to some units. It just makes it a little bit better to deal with some multiple attacking that we'll be doing. But anyway, Tempeспhere. Lastly, for our triggers, you definitely want your draw PGs. You want your vanilla heals because we need them for the Tempeспhere. I run 2 of the Stride crit. I don't run all 4 because we have enough grade 3s and enough ways to search grade 3s to where you don't need to run all 4. You can easily get away with 2, as you can just discard your Pacificas and then bring it back to the board anyway. Not an issue. I also run 2 of her. You can run these instead of this if you want. This is my experimental card right now. I recently got her and I've just been testing her out. Her skill is GB1. When your Vanguard attacks, you can add 10k. Put her in Punch of Soul, give 10k, draw a card. So it's a nice way to draw, give 10k, and add pressure. So if you have her on the board and you have your top out of Pacifica turn, you can make your top out of Pacifica even larger now. So it's just really nice pressure. I run 2 of the Countercharger crit. It says put this into Soul to countercharge once. I think this is really, really needed. As I explained earlier, countercharging is very important. Lastly, we run 2 crit vanillas. So in total, 8 crit, 4 heal, 4 draw PG. So yeah. That's our triggers. This is like my I'm still figuring this out area, but they're in a good spot, but there's still like more I feel like I could do. So we'll start with Shandi. Her full name is Dearly Desired Grand Stage Shandi. So this is the card I was talking about when it comes to Harmony. So just to kind of give you an idea, it says Vanguard Harmony. If 6 or more units are in Harmony, this unit gets a crit. We don't care about that. For each, she gets a crit for each face up in your G-Zone. That condition is never going to be met. That's not what we're here for. But her other skills, when it attacks, Counterblast 1, turn a card from your G-Zone face up. Look at 10 cards on top of your deck, call up to the same number of cards as number of units in Harmony to your rear guard. So she herself, whatever's back here, will be in Harmony. However, as I mentioned earlier, if you have this card on the board, you will also activate Harmony because she herself will give Harmony. So that being said, you are able to now multi-attack. And the reason why I do this is because a lot of the strides you'll notice will have some kind of condition that isn't met early on. For instance, when I have an Onge in there, you need Generation Break 2. In case you don't get to your Generation Break 2, you need something else to ride. There isn't a lot of good early rides. This is one of the few cards that you can actually ride, you can do early, and you'll be fine. On top of the fact that she literally lets you turn a card from your G-Zone face up. So this will activate your Generation Break for next turn. So if you do this turn, next turn you're completely ready to pretty much use any of your strides. So this is a really good starting point. On top of the fact, she also lets you multi-attack. So when she attacks, you can literally just call cards out as long as with the amount of units you have in Harmony. So you will definitely have at least 2, but you can potentially have like 2 more. So you can pretty much call 3 cards. You can call 3 cards. You can call 4 cards out in total. So you can call you can pretty much recall your entire board. You swing with everything and then you call 4 cards out, you know, so you can have like a multi-attacking type of thing going. And this kind of really helps sometimes. Sometimes you really need this card, and that's why I run the Harmony Shizukus, as they kind of help with that engine a little bit more. I'm trying to find a grade 2 that is really solid for Harmony for this deck to replace that one, the Marika, but I'm still kind of deciding what I want to do with that. So next I'll go with the non-Pacifica cards first, and I'll go into Pacifica cards. So here's Chocho. This is Chocho Popular Favor Tiara. So this, I rarely go into this card, but it's good to have as like a side backup. Her main skill, well, her skills are once per turn, choose a face down G-zone unit, turn it face up, and this unit gets continuous. All units with Cho-Cho and their card names in your front row get 5k, we don't care about that. However, she has a Generation Break 3. Once per turn, at the end of the battle that this unit attacks, choose up to 3 of your rear guards, put them to the bottom of your deck in any order. If you put 3 cards, restand and you get 2 drive. So pretty much what she does is she gives you a 4th Vanguard attack, which could be lethal for some turns. I have yet to see a purpose to actually use this, but I think it's just good to have as a backup in case you don't have enough Pacificas or if something's not going right. This is a good card to go into. I overall think she's not bad, but I run just one copy of her just because we don't really need more. Next, so I'll make sure. Oh yeah, Ange. So I also run one copy of Ange. I can only currently afford one. If you can put 2 in, I actually would not be against that. If you could put another one in, I don't think that's bad. Ange is really strong. I think it's a really good card. So her skill is, again, she's blocked by Generation Break 2, so keep that in mind. You can't use this early unless you Tempest Sphere. Once per turn, Generation Break 2, Counterblast 2, choose a face down unit from your G-zone, turn face up. Choose any number of any player's cards in any circle on other than Vanguard, return them to your hand, and she gets 5k for each card returned. If the number of cards returned is 5 or more, draw a card. If it's 7 or more, she gets an extra drive. So her main thing is that everything that you put down, like any on-place effects, like any on-place effects that you just put down, like mainly your searchers, they all now come back and you can reuse all their skills and you can just keep searching and kind of prepare for a lethal turn. She's really good to go into. She's really good to go into when you really want to reuse skills, on top of the fact that your hand size is going to be ginormous Rex. You're going to have like the biggest hand size ever because you're going to be returning cards. You're also going to be drawing. You're going to get an extra drive, which means 4 cards. And then on top of that, like the extra drive will be quadruple drive, so you'll be drive checking 4 times. And then on top of that, you can also put down your searchers and search for more cards, which will be more Pacificas. So your hand is going to be like crazy large. And for your, specifically your G Guardians, this will come really in handy. So sorry, I got to flip her back the other way. So you mainly want to use her if you can tell that you're on the verge of dying or something, or you need another turn to survive. You use her to kind of get you rolling again. You bring back your whole board, do a ton of stuff. And then next turn, when your opponent tries to kill you, you use your G Guardian that says you get +5 for every 2 in your hand. You have 14 cards in your hand, and voila, you're fine. So this is one of those cards it's a kind of more of a defensive option because it gives you draw, it gives you drive, and it gives you just more ways to just replenish your board. But the good part about her is that she also she can also be pretty lethal. Your opponent has to guard this because it's 4 drive checks, and you search a lot of Pacificas out, which means you will hit your triggers. You won't always hit your triggers, but you have a higher chance of hitting your triggers since you're getting rid of those Pacificas out of your deck quite a lot. But yeah, pretty solid card. I like it. It can end the turn. It's rare, but it can end turns. Next, we're gonna go into Twinkle Happiness Pacifica, I believe her name is. So this is the beginning of those you have to have different card names engine that we're going to go into. So her skill is very long, but pretty much you counterblast when she attacks, I believe. No, it's just once per turn. So counterblast, choose a face down unit. So you have to have 2 of these. Choose a face down Twinkle Happiness, turn it face up from your G zone. If you have a heart card with Pacifica in its card name, choose one of your rear guards, return to hand. You can return that Marika, by the way. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 Pacifica in its card name, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. Then you may choose up to 3 cards from your hand with Pacifica in its card name, reveal them. If you reveal 3, all the reveal card and all of them have different names, you get a crit. So pretty much what she does is she searches for Pacifica, she returns something back to your hand, which could be like anything that you have of use. If you reveal 3 different Pacificas, she gains a crit. This is not like the craziest card on the planet. However, this is not a bad first stride, as she's not blocked by any Generation Break. You can just do this and get a crit, add the pressure, get Pacificas into your hand. I will say this is a less defensive play, as aside from returning that 1 card to your hand, you have to put cards down to replenish. On top, as if you return that grade 2 I was talking about, it'll help you search out even more Pacificas. But aside from the crit, she really does nothing else. It's really rare when I go into this, but if I have nothing else to go into, if I don't have any harmony effects, I don't have generation break, I don't have my Cho generation break, if I have nothing else, this is a good card to go into as well. It is kind of a less of a turn, but you can do it. Next we're going into, I'm gonna talk about Cyclone, then I'll talk about one of the win cons. So next we have Cyclone. This is your flippy card. If you need to flip something, you flip this. That's primarily what this is in here. It makes all your vanilla cards have an extra 5k, meaning all your, like, if you need an 18k booster, this will be your thing. Or is it 14k? I don't remember. If you need a 15k booster, this will be your way to get that, because for every, like, these type of cards will gain 5k for each one that's face up, and if you will face up too pretty fast, so you can get that going. Most of the cards in here require you to face something up. You want to face this up. It's your flippy. Fantastic Passion Pacifica. So I run 2 of these. The deck was I saw ran like 4. I don't really think you need 4, as you're not always going to use this, but her skill is very cool. I like the skill. Unfortunately, it is blocked by Generation Break 2, so unless you Tempest Sphere, you won't be able to use this. However, so her skill is when she attacks, choose 3 cards from your from your hand with Pacifica in her name with different card names. So you reveal 3: Eternal, Planet, and the top idol. If you reveal 3, choose up to, if you do, return all your rear guards, so you can return that Mirica card and then search for another Pacifica if you want. I always keep bringing her up because I'm giving you ideas of how that card works. And then it says choose up to 5 cards, so you return everything from your board after pretty much attacking. So you swing with her, return everything to your board, and you call up to 5 Pacificas they have 2 Pacificas. Call them to separate rear guards. They all get 5k. They all can attack the Vanguard from the back row. So pretty much what this does is you're gonna be swinging here. You're gonna have a Pacifica here, Pacifica here, Pacifica here, Pacifica here, and a Pacifica here. They're all gonna be attacking. They all have power. They're all pretty much baby attacks. This is one of your win cons pretty much. What you do with this is you want to end the game usually with this turn. Unless your opponent defense checks something, they're gonna die. If they're at 5 damage, this is a really good way to pretty much kill your opponent. This is one of the win cons that you can do in the deck. There's another one, but this is one of your main win cons. Unfortunately, it is blocked by Generation Break 2, so you have to be cautious of when to use this. Also, you have to have the different card name Pacificas. If you don't have that, this condition doesn't meet. So keep that in mind. You have to have the different Pacificas. Something to know when you stride, when you ride, whatever you do, just keep in mind of that like condition. But it's a really nice condition, as literally they all get 5k on top of that, so they're literally just Excel numbers. Like it'll be like 13, 16, 16, 16, 13. It'll be stuff like that, like those type of attacks. But they all will hit as long as your opponent doesn't have a defensive. So as long, if you're at 5 damage, if your opponent's at 5, this is a really good card to stride into, as it'll probably end the game. Unless your opponent has a fat hand or has enough triggers, they have to guard the first 2 attacks, the Vanguard attack, and then 5 more attacks. So it's pretty much like a little 7 Cs play. Your opponent won't be able to deal with all that. They'll probably die unless they have a honoly on the board. So solid card. It does require a counter blast. It does require some conditions to be met, but it's a good card to go into for one of the win cons in this deck. Going into our G Guardians, we'll start with Leona. This is Leona. I have 1 copy of her. Leona's skill: you choose a rear guard and you may return it to hand. If you do, choose a card from your hand, call it to G guard. If that is the same card as the unit returned, you get 5k. She just gives you extra 5k if you return the same unit and call out the same unit to G guard. I'm not really fully sure like the full combos of this card. I just think it's just a decent way to return and do stuff. You can return a grade 1 and then call out the same grade 1, and it gets the extra value for the guarding. You return like one of your weird crit boosters and then use it again. It can return anything you want, so it's just a nice way to utilize that. Next we have Nasha. Her skill is when placed on G Guardian, choose 1 card from your hand, reveal it. If it's the same unit, if the unit has the same grade as that card, reveal. If you have a unit with the same grade as that card, this unit gets 5k. So pretty much if you have a grade 3, a grade 2, and a grade 1, you can just reveal whatever you want, and she gets 5k for it. Usually, I don't know what you'd want to reveal, but you can reveal your Pacificas, because, you know, Pacifica. Next, I have Citron. Citron is a very unique card, one of the more interesting of the G Guardians in my opinion. I think these are a little bit more boring, but her skill says, when this unit is placed on G Guardian, the G circle, choose up to 1 grade 1 or greater from your hand, call it to rear. If you call it a card, this unit gets 10k. So you can manipulate this in multiple ways. You can honoly. You can put down a Honoly mid-battle. You can put down a Temposphere mid-battle. You can put down a Pacifica mid-battle. If you know your opponent won't be retiring anything, you can slap down a Pacifica, prepare yourself for next turn if you need to. You put down a grade 2 so you can intercept with it. You can do a lot of stuff, and if you do it, she gets an extra 10k, which makes her 25k shield. I think this is one of the better of the G Guardians. We have one more that's like pretty solid in here, but she definitely does a lot for you. I think this is a must. You should definitely run these. They're kind of pricey right now. They just got bought out. I was tempted to go for a coral build recently, and then I found out that these are at $9 now, so kind of pricey. So she's hard to get right now. She recently got bought out. She was like, I think $2-3, like literally a couple months back, like when I bought them. Anyway, lastly for the G Guardians, we have Sandy. This is Bless Sparkle Sandy, probably the best G Guardian in here, especially with Anj. This card is just really nice. It says, when placed, you have to have a Generation Break one, by the way. When placed, choose a face-down Guardian, turn it face up. This unit gets 5k until the end of the battle for every 2 cards in your hand, and then you can counterblast to get another 5k. So, of course, like I explained earlier, if you have a fat hand, if you just had an Anj turn, whatever it is that you just had, this card will definitely really stack up your shield. It will block almost everything that you needed to block. On top of the fact that this isn't a perfect guard of any kind, so it doesn't shut off any weird skills that your opponent may have, like Sentinel Restraints or whatever. This card doesn't care. It's just a nice card. This card reminds me of the Grand Blue card. I can't remember her name. Negro Lily, I think. No, it's the other one. It's the one with the pink hair and the ghosties that lets you call stuff from drop zone. This card gives me that same type of feeling. Like, it's just a really good card for like this clan, just like that card is really good for Grand Blue. So I like this card. That's all of our strides. A lot to talk about. So let's talk about some combos, because I think they're very important. One of your finishing combos is definitely your Pacifica combo. If you have top idol Pacifica, also you're gonna need one Pacifica. You're gonna need something like this. This will be your final board. So like this is a good finishing / win con board. Pretty much you activate this skill. Make sure everything gets its like way to resist. You have to take the skill, you have to put something, you have to put something like out. You have to put something at the bottom, but then you can call from your drop zone and out of Pacifica if you need to. But anyway, so you have this board here, everything boosts and everything's pretty lethal. So her skill now on top of that, you're going force 1 by the way in this clan. I didn't talk about force markers, but you're going force 1. So she gets a force marker for herself. And then you can put a force marker here, and then you can put a force marker here, and boom. Now your opponent has to guard 3 cards for each attack, on top of the fact that she has an extra 10k, and everything boosts. So this is one of your like finishing approaches. You can do this as early as like your turn 1, as you search so much. As long as you have this card, you can do this pretty early. You can actually even do this like this. You can just be super annoying and just have something like this. You have just 3 Pacificas out. Well, you do need a 4th one. So you need one more over here. So you can have just one extra one. You need to have 3 out as rear guards, right? So you can have something like this. You can, and the nice part about this, we're gonna ignore this card completely. Every one of these attacks, your opponent has to guard, like with 3 cards. Even though they're small, they're all 23, they still have to overguard like crazy. So you can do something like this too. You don't have to have your full board out, but for like final turn type of boards, you may want to do something like this more. So that's one of your win cons. As I explained earlier, you do have like the other win condition, which is your stride condition. So you have your Fantastic Pacifica stride. So say you have like another turn, you can put down some rear guards, you know. You can even have like the same exact board, to be honest. Say you have something like this. You swing, like, you know, with your boosted and everything. And then you swing with Van, bring everything back to your hand. Reveal your 3 different Pacificas. Like, this goes back to hand too. So when you're attacking. Reveal your 3 different Pacificas. And then it says to call 5 Pacificas. So you call 1, you call 2... 3, 4, 5. They all get 5k. So now, with whatever your drive check ends up being, etc. Now you're swinging for, you'll probably start back here. So it'll be 18, 18, 16, 28, and then This will be, well, you'll start here first. This will be 21, 26. So 26 and 28. So these two front columns will be okay with a defensive. Like if your opponent defenses, you're still fine. These back ones you want to attack with first, as if your opponent does land a defensive, they turn off. So you want to make sure you go here first. This is a pretty lethal combo. If you can get more numbers on this using like Marika, for example. So if you use like Marika, she gives an extra 5k, so you can add it to like one of your back row units to make them hittable or more hittable if you return this like on this turn. Because you can do before you like attack, like when she attacks, if this is one of the cards you return, you can actually search for another Pacifica. So on top of that, you can also use your grade 1s. Like you sometimes you may have to like chance it, but you can use your grade 1s to like search for Pacificas before you actually like activate this, and hopefully you get what you need. It's really rare. I don't recommend doing that, but if you're one short, you can kind of go balls deep and try your best to get to the third one as you need it, but chances are you'll probably have all three, so it's not usually an issue. But yeah, this is your like other win con that you can pretty much manipulate with your stride. So you have one Vanguard non-stride win con, then you have like one stride win con. I would say your only like other main win con is actually Ange. So Ange is another really good condition, because with Ange what you can do is you can have like no board. You can start out with no board. If I can get this out. And you can have like something, you can have like you can put stuff down, activate their skills, you know, put stuff down, activate their skills, activate their skills, activate their skills, activate their skills, then use her skill, bring it all back, 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 get an extra card, you draw an extra card, she gains an extra drive, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 drive checks. So it can be pretty lethal, as if you know they have a lot of crits in deck left and stuff like that. This can actually end games too, but that's just Ange doing Ange things, right? But yeah, other than that, that's probably your main focus. So I've definitely like, there's really no other like solid combo. It sounds like it's kind of boring, but it's really not, because you do so much searching and so much manipulating of your Pacificas that actually gets pretty fun. But yeah, your main con is definitely get your Pacificas. Like that's pretty much the main strat of the whole thing, is just get your Pacificas and do lots of things with your Pacificas, and hopefully you'll end the game. And it's really, I think this deck pops off really fast. They really, especially with the amount of force markers you can spam. Going first, you spam markers like crazy. Going second, you can just go into some like crazy combos. You can actually sometimes just choose not to stride and just go into Pacifica anyway, like into this Pacifica. You can just like say, nah, I don't want to stride. Put all your Pacificas. You have to guard with 3 cards. You really want to make sure which win con you pick between this one and this one. Like you want to make sure which one you want to go for. This one is really good for like endgame potential. This one is really good to just destroy your opponent's hand. So if you just want your opponent's hand to just not exist, this is definitely the way to go. And sometimes you can even go force 2 with this, which really adds like pressure, because now your opponent has to guard a 13k attack that's 2 crit, so they like have to guard it like with 3 cards. It forces them to have to guard. It's really rare when you want to go force 2, but you can. If you know that your opponent needs their hand like really desperately, you can just kind of go crazy with force 2, put down your Pacificas, make everything guard with 3 cards, and no matter the smaller the number, the more annoying it is actually, because they have to guard 3 cards regardless. The bigger the number, the easier it is for them to guard, as they may have to guard 3 cards anyway. So you can go force 2 and just kind of use that engine as well. Force 2 is really rarely used. You definitely want to use force 1, but yeah, you really want to make sure you know which ones you want to go for. Like I said, like this one is very late game. This one's more for the pressure and annoyance. This one only has 3 attacks. This one has 8 attacks. So you want to make sure which one you're going for. Be wary of honoly, of course. If your opponent puts honoly down, you may not want to go this anymore. Most people won't know that this exists, to be honest with you. I've noticed that people aren't aware about Pacifica and what Pacifica in general does. Some people, they just don't know that you can multi-attack that much in this deck, but you can. So just something to keep in mind, but you want to make sure that you're cautious of the honoly, as the honoly will shut you down. We really use our counterblast a lot in this deck, so if you are going to go for that final play with this card and your opponent does forces you to honoly, you will have a hard time getting through these attacks. The first 3 will be fine, but up to 5 you'll be okay. But the last 2 attacks, if you don't have the counterblast for it, you're going to be kind of in a bad spot. I would recommend in that spot then attack with your big boys and then just call it a day. I think that's honestly it. This profile has been a ton of fun. Oh yeah, don't forget your that. Don't forget that. That's important. And this, don't forget this either. That's important too. Your quick shield and your starter. You need both of those. Anyway, this has been an extremely fun deck. Let me swap over to my other screen. All right, so I'm back on a different screen. Just wanted to talk about more Pacifica stuff briefly with you guys. So this deck was honestly really fun to create. I'm very surprised that more people aren't aware that this deck exists. I don't know how strong it is in terms of like meta, because I've been facing like Nova Grappler, Angel Feather. Not that I'm saying those aren't meta, by the way, they are meta. But I haven't faced like the loops, I guess. I haven't faced Fenrir loop or Spike loop or any of that stuff. So I don't know how well it does against stuff like that. Or like Zazan decks. I don't know how it does well against that. I haven't faced it against my own deck, which is Grand Blue. Like, I don't even know how well it does against Grand Blue, but I do know where I have been playing. It's been really, really fun to play, and I think it's just a really fun and interesting deck to try. It is definitely way better than the standard version of Pacifica. The standard version only can use Top Idol Pacifica and nothing else, and it kind of sucks because you can only search for 4 cards, which is just herself. Like, you can't do anything else. So it's really easy to like miss your stuff because you can only search for just Top Idol Pacifica, whereas in this deck you can search for literally like all 3 of them. Chances of you getting them is really easy. Chances of you having a lethal turn is really high. It's just way better. You can just do so much more on your grade 3 turn, whereas on your in standard you're just kind of like, yeah, oh, I got 2 out of my 3, I guess, so here I go. Because you have to ride one. Keep in mind, you have to ride one. So the other 3 have to be in your hand. And there's only 4 in total, so that's all 4 of them have to be on board for you to do stuff. So in standard, I don't think it's as fun, but premium Pacifica is a blast. I really think it's awesome. I highly recommend people try it out if you want to. It's a really, really underrated deck. Like, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna stop being your friendly neighborhood Pacifica and go back to being OuterOrange here in a little bit. But thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative to you. Hope you guys are building other things or things similar to it or whatever it is you're building. Feel free to tell me about what you're building. I love to hear it. I always comment and respond back to everybody that comments pretty much, except for no, I really just respond to everybody. I don't think, aside from like a few toxic people here and there, which we all know like who those people are. But other than that, I do respond. I try my best to respond as soon as possible, whether it's old videos, new videos, whatever it is, I'll try to get to it. I have been getting more of a, I have been getting more volume in my comments, which is good, but I've been responding to everything. And if I miss something, please let me know. I will happily respond to you. And like I said, I have a Twitter. You guys can follow my deck list and everything I do on Twitter as well. I do stuff on there and all that fun stuff. Other than that, guys, shout out to that person, whoever you are. Thank you for joining in on the fun. Other than that, guys, peace out. Best with Anya. Bye. See you guys next time.